We are live. It is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. We just wrapped up Election Day and Veterans Day, and we are all very happy here.
Oh, yeah.
And we are very ecstatic. We're actually very impressed by hearing who some of the folks that will be in the new Trump administration, and a lot of them are great. So, Seth, let's just start there. What do you think so far of his cabinet picks?
Well, let me back up. I want to talk about the election for just what a carpet bombing. I mean, my God,
yeah.
What a just, and here's the thing, here's what people aren't talking about, is we expanded by double digits, turnout in every category. I mean, it's great we took the presidency. It's great we took the Senate. It's great we took the House. It's great, we took the popular vote. I mean, what a mandate. But then to expand like we did in every conceivable demographic and category was just what an absolute carpet bombing. What a total and utter rejection. To put it like the president used to say when he was on The Apprentice, you're fired. It was a great night. I was totally ecstatic. As far as the cabinet is concerned, the big headline of the day, Pete Hegseth. People have asked me a little bit about that, and I think it's funny that you have, I don't know the names exactly, but I can only imagine sort of the same olds out there. Yawn, Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, these type of loons that are out there. Well, what's his qualifications? And my question to them is, what is his disqualification? Is it his degree from Yale and Harvard? Is it him being a major in the Marines? Is it his 3 tours in combat? What is his disqualification? And if that's the disqualification, maybe one of probably the best, and somebody that I interacted with directly at being, at the Pentagon at 9/11 at the impact area was Don Rumsfeld. Maybe he shouldn't have served as Secretary of Defense under 2 different administrations. So, the problem they have with like Pete is not that he's Secretary of Defense. It's that he's not their Secretary of Defense.
Yeah. Also, he doesn't like to wear a dress like the current one, right?
What's that?
He's not like the current one who wants to turn the military into a social experiment.
Well, yeah, and they're mad. It's this, to me, it's the standard. Look, I served in the Marines, I served in the Army, Army National Guard, and then of course got activated for about 14 months on 9/11. It's sort of the last gasp of some of the, or at least the last grab at the whiskey for some period of time for some of the the standard complexes that are in DC, the military industrial complex, of course, we've heard about for 80 years since Eisenhower. But you have other ones out there, the nonprofit industrial complex. This is their messaging to the people. Oh, he didn't come up through the general staff and the war college, and he's not going to be a standard bloated spending and contract continuance type of SecDef, and he's going to get us out of the like you said, the social experiment, the woke game in the military.
And that's a topic he's written on. He's got a book on the subject about warriors, and clearly that is sort of his mandate, or his intended focus is to focus on the personnel issues that he has, that both the president and he has a lot of concerns about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason, if you want to be Google, do what Google does, right? And if you want to be successful for the next 249 years, you do what the military has done successfully for 249 years. Why do you change the recipe? And I understand, when you look back historically through like integration and things like that, I get it. But at the end of the day, this is much more complex. This is much more logistically complex, and it's not about integration or acceptance or anything like that. This is about changing the complexion and quite frankly, in my mind, the mission of the military. And it's just not a viable option, especially in the world that we live in moving forward.
Who I wish they appoint who'd be a great education secretary. All indications he doesn't want it, but I think that's the best person for the job would be Governor Ehrlich. I mean, what he did in Maryland when he was governor, he revolutionized education. Nobody had ever heard of charter schools in Maryland.
Right.
Than Governor Ehrlich, you know.
Right. I hope Bob's talking to Trump about it. I mean, you're 100% right, man. I mean, you know, there's nobody had heard about it, you know, but he did that and he still maintained record. You know, I think the funding mechanism back then was Thornton. And you know, he maintained and exceeded recommended Thornton funding and strengthened charter and private entities as far as schooling is concerned. And, you know, it's funny, he did so much more with a lot less. And yet back then, back in the days of Bob Ehrlich, we certainly, well, let me talk about what we didn't have. We didn't have people graduating high school, you know, at an 8% literacy rate. We didn't have people graduating high school with almost no math literacy. So, you know, yeah, I think that he would be you know, definitely a value add to the national level Board of Education, or, you know, the Department of Education. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, Delegate, tell me, were there any surprises that you kind of think of from last week's election?
No, I really honestly, so I've run an election and I've lost, and I've run several elections and won, right? And one of the things that you can feel is a momentum or energy shift. And in the past about 10 days before the election, maybe 2 weeks, you could feel the energy and the momentum shift. And you know, it was the appropriate time. I don't want to peak in June. I want to peak, you know, November 1st, so to speak, right? So I was not surprised that I was not surprised Trump won, but I was not surprised about the Senate. I was a little surprised about the House. I was certainly surprised about the popular vote. But I will tell you, you know, I was very, very pleasantly surprised about, and this is critical, the expansion of the Republican ideology and messaging to every demographic. I mean, Black, white, Muslim, Hispanic, young men, older women, uneducated men and women. I mean, it just every demographic they expanded by double digits. And that was a great surprise to me. And I was very, very happy to see that. And, you know, we could kind of see that. We could see the transformation of us becoming the party of, you know, the working class and those voices and messages.
This is the Jack Kemp dream. Remember Jack Kemp? That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Republican Party, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think, what do you call, if we can hold these voters, I think things are going to change in a lot of states in our midterms in 2 years. You know, we could be the first time the party in power picks up seats like we did in 2004, 2002, after when President Bush, we took the Senate and sent Tom Daschle packing.
Yep.
I think we might be able to we may see some surprises in Maryland even.
We could, although, you know, I'll be honest with you. I've been in the legislature 10 years, right? And I expect, quite frankly, these fools to do, you know, instead of saying, hey, listen, nationally, maybe not in Maryland, but nationally, you know, the message is clear. We need to redirect, rethink, you know, sort of do a top-down audit of ourselves and, you know, message and what we stand for in the direction we're going. They're not going to do that. Liberals do not like self-reflect, right? They just don't do it. I do it every day. I really honestly do it every day. I get up every day and I think, oh, I could have handled that situation better, or I owe that person an apology, or, you know, I need to reach out to so-and-so and clarify something, you know, those type of things. I do that type of stuff every day. And
we saw their self-reflection Wednesday morning, you know.
Yeah.
But their long faces and cryings and
I mean, it's you know, this is the same people that, like, you know, I mean, you know, go the way of the dodo. Napoleon said, "Don't interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake." You know, you get people out there that say, "Well, we're not going to have kids now, and we're going to do." I mean, look, okay. I mean, don't let me stand in your way of progress. I mean, if that's what you think progress is and you want to breed yourself out, go right ahead. Oh, and by the way, if you want to self-identify by painting your hair purple or shaving it, so we all know, absolutely, absolutely. That way I can skip you, and because I know what I'm getting, and talk to somebody that's actually based in reality. So, and you know, and has to deal with everyday issues.
So talking about some of the issues, topic A, at least for Maryland, was yesterday's spending affordability report, which it was a very, very bleak. It certainly suggests that we are facing the worst, again, looking over multiple years, the worst budget challenges over the next couple of years than we faced in 2 decades. Some of this we've known for, a lot of this we've known for quite some time was coming. The economy in the state, employment in the state has been flat. And on the other hand, the spending trajectory has been, up by, I think, 6% a year, was what they're projecting, whereas the revenues are nowhere near that. What do you think is going to happen?
Night, buddy. Night. Well, they've already sort of set the tone. Last year, David Moon said, well, we're going to have to put our big boy pants on and, talk about increased taxes. And our question was, why is the equation always end with increasing taxes and not looking at, our spending? And, the Maryland Matters article talked about 84% of our budget being unfunded. And, when you have a super majority in the legislature, and here's the thing, I'm not talking about a super majority of Democrats in the legislature. I'm not talking about the old school sort of Ned Carey, Ted Sophocles, people that I served with. I'm talking about radical liberals. Liberals, right? Absolutely. Just, yes, 100%. Saying things to me, in confidence years ago, I mean, this is a quote, sort of sitting and talking, and we're talking about legislation, and young gentlelady says, I'm a liberal woman. I'm a proud liberal woman. Yeah, I know. And she goes, these people make me look center. So there is no, and I mean that's a quote. There is going to be no, again, there's going to be no top-down reflection. There's going to be no, holy cow, guys, we got to really rein it in. Oh, they'll rein it in on spending, for any probably conservative programs and projects that are out there, I'm sure. But
hey, Seth, did Larry Hogan have some sort of a magic wand that he's governed for 8 years without tax increases and surpluses were left? I mean, it seems like why they didn't just stick with Larry's budget and we wouldn't be in the mess we're in right now, frankly.
Hey, listen, if you want to be Google, do what Google does, right? Like, again, why reinvent the wheel? That's a great question. That's one of the universal mysteries, man. Why would you do that? And now here's the thing: we got the first Black governor of Maryland, right? Who seems affable guy. I like him. I don't like his policies, but he seems like an affable guy. And it's almost like they're setting a failure. Quite frankly, I mean, if I, when I look at it from a military, my analyst sort of military mindset, I look at it and I go, why would you you want him to have a second term, right? You want him to have a future, right? Is that, or are you, why would you put him in this position? Why wouldn't you just keep on with what worked and keep being successful? Yeah. That's
Larry did fund Larry funded a lot of their pet projects. I don't know why they had. Sure. It's not like Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them are worthwhile projects. Some of them are not. I mean, that's so goes life. That's anything.
But those scholarships for the kids, which Westmore cut those too, didn't he?
Yeah.
The Boost program.
Yeah, Boost. Like that was like, what are you doing? Like, 2 years ago they were arguing on the floor to increase Boost. Sometimes we shake our head down there. But again, when you have a super majority of liberal, we're talking radical. We're not talking the old school JFK sort of Democrat. That's just not. That doesn't exist. Ted Sophocles died. Ned Carey's gone. the body isn't like that anymore.
So the split earlier in the session this year was between the Senate, which was more restrained on taxes, and the House that was seeing, you mentioned David Moon seemed more ready to kind of start
based on that
the
comment,
increases.
sure.
Yeah. So do you see that same divide with the Democratic Party, or how do you see this next session sorting out?
Again, I think I think to them, everything that's a revenue problem is just a matter of taxing. I really honestly believe that. I really honestly believe that.
Yeah. And they don't want to make any cuts in things that aren't working, like like the whole education. They don't want to fund charter schools. They don't want to try anything radically different that might actually help. They don't want to spend money on roads.
That absolutely blows my mind that they don't want to, because one of the things we pride ourselves on. What's that?
I mean, even in Anne Arundel County, traffic is a nightmare. It's getting as bad as it is here in Montgomery County.
Sure. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is geolocation, right? So especially let's talk about here in Anne Arundel County, but you can scale that back, 100,000 foot view to Maryland in general, You've got proximity to Virginia and Baltimore, the intelligence agencies that are located here and to our south, industry that's located across the border, in Delaware and Pennsylvania, and right here in Maryland. I mean, in some small respects, of course, you've got the economic driver that is Washington, D.C. on our border, and in some respects, we're sort of at least when high speed rail and things like that come online, will be some respects will be a bedroom community for New York. I think that's 25, 30 years out, but yeah, no, they just if there's a revenue problem, just tax your way out of it, spend your way out of it. There's no real plan.
Tell us a little bit about your business. We're in your smoke shop. We obviously see some of the inventory behind you. You've been running that for a number of years.
20
years. It gives you, I would think, a much different perspective about the way Maryland is compared with the kind of nonprofit and government experience that so many of your colleagues have. Can you talk a little bit about how that?
Yeah.
How do you communicate that with them?
Well, I mean, it's kind of jestful. So I'm a member of the Severna Park Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a member of the South County Chamber of Commerce, Southern Maryland, or Southern Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce. And, when I talk to other business owners, the old saying was, when it came to like New York City, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right.
We say that about Maryland now. Because it's just that type of environment, and it's just that type of hostility, and almost to some degree like open hostility to businesses. When you look at like minimum wage, and then you look at just increased insurance amounts that are on employee cover, these type of things, and I sit on Economic Matters Committee, and I have for 10 years, and it's a great committee, and I love the committee, and I love my colleagues, but at the end of the day, I mean, we literally had people come up and testify and say, hey, well, we're not saying no. What we're saying is, whoa, let us breathe. Just let us, this is the business community. This is chambers, state chambers and local chambers, people, in that same room going, I'm from the Montgomery County Chamber, whatever it was, going, listen, we're not opposed to some of these policies, but you got to let us breathe. Just, we're just now putting in place $15 an hour minimum wage. We're just now putting some of these other policies, workforce policies in place. Just, you got to let us breathe. And they are just, push the throttle forward even harder, in some cases. And it just, you just get people that just go, okay, I'm done. And I see that more and more in the business community. They just go, I've been doing this 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. I got a buyer. I got a job. I'm done. I'm done.
I mean, I've heard of two,
Mhm.
and that's just two is probably few of animal businesses that went out of that. Basically, the owners after the pandemic, so the policies of your county executive of
Mhm.
mask on, mask off, this, that,
Mhm.
indoor dining at 2%, 5%, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the what do you call it? Bell Napoli, the owners there. Have
Oh
switched
yeah,
to-
yeah. That was great pizza too, man. That
Yes,
Little
it was.
Carmine's were
It
some of
is.
the Little Carmine's in Severna Park and Bella Napoli. I just well, who's the guy over there by Gino's in Severna Park? I can't think of it. Anyway, those are my three go-to spots, and I'm like a pizza
Mhm.
snob, man. I'm all about Bleecker Street in New
Well,
York, John's Pizza, Times
mhm.
Square, John's Pizza and Bleecker Street. You know, I love pizza, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I've
You
heard
ever
about
pizza
that.
at Dorian's in Midtown?
What's that?
Dorian's in Midtown.
I've heard of it.
They actually, it's a bar.
Yeah.
They got really good pizza.
I've heard of it, and I've got to get there. You know, it's one good thing about having a cigar shop is, you know, you learn from Baltimore to you know Calvert where the good
Mhm.
pizza places are and the little
Yeah.
restaurants and stuff like that. So it's always fun to kind of explore those, and you know, and I'm always
Mhm.
happy when new ones come online. Um, you know, but you know, I understand, you know, what they're going to face, and I just try to make
Yeah.
myself as a resource for them and help them. And I tell them, get involved with the chamber, get involved with the legislature, you know, it's a pain in the ass and it takes up a lot of time, whatever. And you know, and owning and running and operating a business is so, you know, intensive on the owners. Because you need to be a legal expert, you need to be a payroll expert, and you need to be a, you know, you know, HR department, you know, because if you have 5 employees, that's 5 weddings and 5 funerals and 5 births and 5 birthdays, and you know, it just multiplies over and over and over again. So I tell people, use the resources around you. You're going to need them. You're going to need them. This is the Maryland business environment. You're going to need them.
So
So
another
coming.
the issues that you've been involved with in the past is sort of cleanup of Chesapeake, and
Hmm.
you've talked a little bit about the failures of building infrastructure to again the sewer system up in Baltimore and what have you.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, but you know, everybody. I mean, it usually once or twice a year. There's, you know, 8,000 gallons of raw sewage dumped in, you know, because of the old infrastructure in Baltimore. And I kind of lost track of what I was saying, but you know, these infrastructure projects, you know, when we were talking about roads and stuff like that, and the geolocation of in the centric
Right.
Maryland centric to agencies and things like that, is like, why wouldn't you put that money into infrastructure? It's one of the reasons that businesses would want to come there. You know, it's
Mhm.
formulaic, right? Like there's, you know, it's not just about taxes. It's not just, it's about, you know, the environment as a whole. It's about competitiveness. It's about, you know, the accuracy of your water bill. It's about, you know, because, you know, if you get, that's just one more thing you have to do, one more thing you have to follow up with, and another 17 phone calls you have to make as a business owner because you got a water bill, you know, that said $40,000 on it, and you're like looking around going, what in the hell is going, you know, these type of things. And I hear those nightmare stories out of Baltimore all the time, all the time. So, you know, when it comes to roads, when it comes to, you know, your septic, when it comes to, you know, lights and water, you know, you've got to have reliability in every one of those sectors. It's not just about taxes and putting, you know, money in your pocket or whatever. You know, we as business owners, as the business community, understand that there's a balance. You know, we are providing jobs. I mean, I have one guy, 70 years old, that works for me. What's he going to do? I mean, talk about ageism. What's he, you know, if I close up, where's he going to go? You know, I got another guy that works for me. He's like 27, 26, 29, maybe. He's a young guy, just got married, bought a new house. You know, he's got another job, but this is what he does on, you know, Sundays and one other day a week. And it helps them make ends meet as a young couple. You know, we understand that as business owners. We get it. And yeah, we're here to make a living and we got bills too. But at the end of the day, you know, we understand that like the money that I'm generating here at this business goes back into the community, and really, quite frankly, not just the Maryland community, but the Anne Arundel County and the direct community, and it has we positive benefit. This goes back into roads and those type of things, and when you take that money away and you spend it on other things, because I don't know, I guess you thought the money from COVID was going to go on forever. And you don't rein that in, which, myself and Matt Morgan and Buckle and Pippi and April Rose, and, the list goes on and on and on, stood up and said, hey guys, this money's not going to last forever. And we're writing legislation and we're spending it like, what did Ronald Reagan say? Drunken sailors. And that's an insult to drunken sailors. And, and we're not, now we're stuck with no infrastructure money.
And the worst part is that these people, I think a lot of Democrats are so out of touch. They don't understand how hard the last 4 years have been for the average working person who's working. Now they're working 2 jobs. They say how jobs unemployment's down, but it's because everyone's got 2 to 3 jobs just to pay the bills. Put gas in the cars.
Gig economy. And part of me, because of the legislature, some of the legislation that has been passed, and I'd have to go back and research it, some of it directly, but, in ECM, Economic Matters Committee, and ECM, we've talked about, gig economy and those type of things. Part of it almost makes me think that they do know and they just don't care. Because why would you put forth legislation to strengthen gig economy and make sure, like, Uber is operating in the state, but doing it in a safe manner? Because there's a gig economy out there, which tells me how hard things are, right? So instead of doing things to try to make life easier for people, and we just go, well, we'll just get a 3rd job. Between mom and dad, there's 5 jobs in some households now. I mean, that just...
Isn't one of the challenges in Maryland is this expectation that government spending, government agencies, both the direct employees, say the FBI, but also the contractor spending will sort of take care of economic development in Maryland. And as a result, there's a tendency for the Democrats to take it less seriously than they even in other states do, because they just assume, well, if, for example, I noticed in the spending report yesterday, they referenced the fact of, well, gee, maybe the FBI is less likely to go to Maryland. Well, probably on that, but that's where they look to for economic development, and it's a very narrow base, and it's not one that's really been growing.
Right, 100%.
And that's
when you depend on that as your sort of your economic development fund and your growth and your economic development sector. I mean, and then in the meantime, you're not going to pay. You have emergency funding for 2,400 miles of road, like what? And then you're shocked when maybe the FBI isn't coming here, and maybe businesses are leaving, and maybe corporations are leaving due to corporate tax rates and lack or aging infrastructure. I mean, you can't be shocked by these things.
I think we're down to less than 5 Fortune 500 companies based in that call Maryland home. I think we used to have a number of them.
I remember when Black & Decker. I'm so old. I remember when Black & Decker left.
Yeah. And now we have go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say another one of the issues that we've been talking about as out of session since obviously last spring has been the Department of Juvenile Services and the secretary that I know a lot of Republicans have pointed out the failures of them.
Sure.
And bringing in convicted murderer to be on the staff and letting people out who I think most people would agree, if they knew about it, should not have been let out.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to. I really don't expect them to make any real and significant and substantive changes.
Do you think we'll have some real teeth put back into the criminal justice system through this session? Because I know there are an awful lot of state's attorneys went to Annapolis, Democrats and Republicans, saying that, hey, this whole cashless bail and all this stuff is putting more crime on our streets and stuff like that. Is there any chance we'll see that, or people like Will Smith will always block it?
I don't know if, I don't know if it's, Will Smith will always block it. I don't know, you know what I mean? But I just don't know if it comes down to like one person or whatever, but I just don't think, I mean, those state's attorneys and those prosecutors have been down there multiple times and they just do what they're going to do anyway. I mean, I talked to a police officer here at Scar Shop the other day, locked up a girl for murder. Who was like 14 and out on the streets, and she had been convicted of attempted murder. And I'm sorry, shouldn't she be in like the juvenile? He said, no, they don't do that anymore. And now now that she has murdered somebody, she'll serve till she's 21 and then be out. So she'll serve 5 or 6 years and then be out, and it'll all go away. She's a juvenile. You have to have repercussions for your actions. I mean, that's the, and they'll say, well, there are repercussions. Yeah, but you know what? When you can when you can do things that just warrant you to be released to your parents, and these are things that are a danger to society. These are gun related crimes and drug related crimes and carjackings that we've all heard about. I mean, these are things that can escalate, quite frankly, for the perpetrator of the crime too. I mean, you think about that. I think he was 10 or 12 or 14 years old, carjacking multiple people in Baltimore. I mean, it was only a matter of time until that kid, ran across the wrong guy or girl, and that was going to be his last day. And, and that's what I think of too. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand why we have a juvenile justice system. And I agree with that. Kids, as we know, aren't fully developed in their brains, and and people make mistakes. And I'm a firm believer in people having second and sometimes even third chances. I mean, there are those folks out there. I get it. But, so, and again, so I understand, especially when it comes to kids having
you're on mute,
repercussions
Seth.
to it,
Oh,
not just released to your parents and, a nasty gram put into your record.
Yeah. And also, I think the old stigma of being arrested, it's kind of gone away. It's like they wear it as a badge of honor. I've been to jail. I've been convicted.
Sure.
It's like in the old days, people would be ashamed of having a criminal record.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Now it's like, look at me.
Yeah.
As if it's as if it's some type of badge, like you said, badge of honor, when the reality is that the cemeteries and the prisons are full of fools.
Now, one of the other issues that you've been involved with and had some successful legislation was helping families find recovery programs.
Yeah, that's been kind of near and dear to my heart.
So tell me a little bit about that and how you managed to get that bill through.
It's been a couple of years, so I'd have to go back and take a look at it. It was a good legislative success, though. That the genesis of that was when we were having all the overdoses and just sort of pairing. So it's part of recovery is wraparound services, and that's a major part of. I would say that's probably the largest part. Is when you're talking about long-term care. And part of that bill was that I was very, very proud of was to pair people to who didn't offer that service themselves, but would say to the person coming out of Shepherd Pratt or whatever program they were in, oh, okay, well, you are and let me back up. It would also help protect women. So one of the things that bill did was, if somebody was getting out and of a program, they could say, oh, you have a child? Okay, great. Well, you're not going to go to this home because there's somebody there with a propensity for violence, right? Towards women or children or both, whatever it is. And it also sort of looked at them holistically and said, oh, okay, great. Well, you're getting out, but you need to finish your GED. You need, do you have any transportation? No, you don't. So, like, for example, in my district, there's it's a very rural district, or in, let's say, Southern Maryland, let's, pick on, Eastern Shore, whatever it is. Why would you put somebody that doesn't have access to a car or family members that are local on the Eastern Shore? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So that bill went through and sort of looked at the individual holistically, and it protected. And it, I was very honored. Once that bill passed, I got a picture somewhere of it. They were all at the speaker's podium, and I, walked them around the House of Delegates and stuff like that. I was very, very honored. A dozen, maybe 15 women came down and said, I was in a really bad situation, and I had a landlord, or house manager, or whatever you want to call him, that was taking advantage of me in my situation, and I think we all know what I mean. And this legislation helped stop that in its tracks, because it didn't pair me or put me, that I wasn't released into a home where I could be taken advantage of, where my life circumstances and the resources that I had, with myself, was a driver's license, I did complete high school, those type of things, were taken into account, and it helped me greatly. And it was a very, very, I kind of got teared up. I didn't do it in front of them, but I got kind of teared. I get emotional now talking about it, just because I can totally understand why, especially, a woman, that is a user, and then wants to get clean and sober, but then gets taken advantage of, but then uses again to deal with that she just got taken advantage. You know what I mean? That circle, and that circle ultimately is a drain, and it leads to death. And so I was, glad to get that done. I hope that it helped, and according to them, it did. So it's probably one of the greatest. I've been in the Marines, I've been around generals and patted on the back and all this type of stuff. But as far as just a person, that's why I went to the legislature right there. My ideology and my tax policy and all that type of stuff. But when you do something like that, when you have a victory like that, that's something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
So we should probably describe it. It's a resource for people to find facilities. Is really give them the tools. Yeah.
The hang up was they were the halfway houses, so to speak, sober homes, so to speak, were worried that they were gonna have to offer those services. And I said, no, what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap those services around, but we're gonna do it in a way to where when Shepherd Pratt leaves, they're gonna do an assessment. They're gonna get to your facility, and you're gonna say, yes, based on the assessment that we got for, and I'm picking on Shepherd Pratt, but there's a million other places, right? It's just the first one that comes to mind. Based on this assessment, this needs assessment, the ASAM, and the expansion of it, here's the best home you should be into to facilitate a recovery based on your education, your access to transportation, family members that are in the area, so your support network, and there was a myriad. I'd have to go back and look, but there were 7 or 8 other criteria that we took into account. And it was a good piece of legislation. And and it wasn't me. I got it passed and everything, but that was everybody. That was my chief of staff, and that was a woman that worked for me named Lisa Lowe. That was, so that was absolutely, I make no bones about it, that was a team effort. And that includes, quite frankly, that bill would not have passed without, both sides of the House, both parties and both chambers. So I thank them profusely for that. And it's one thing to have, ideological discussions and things like that, but, they realized that was a need, and they passed it regardless of who it came from. And, I'll never forget that either. So.
Well, congratulations. It was a real accomplishment.
Thank you.
So looking ahead, do you have we're coming up to the season when people drop pre-file bills. I think it's the
Yeah,
technical term.
yeah.
But do you have some legislation you're looking at for the
Yeah,
coming session?
yeah, I've got a myriad of stuff. And I've got a file that I kind of keep all year, and it's just might be a quick idea that I have. It might be a quick idea that somebody mentions to me. Two that come to mind are expanding PTSD treatment for veterans. There's some cheaper alternatives and methodologies that we can use and have a very good, like an 85% success rate that are being discussed nationally as far as PTSD treatment. And by that being discussed nationally, I mean like in some of the veteran
Right.
journals and media that I get every month. Two, I have a friend of mine that went to go get his car emissions done, and they said, "Oh, well, your lane assist is out or whatever, and so we're not going to pass your emissions test." And I'm like, "Well, that's not what emissions is about, and that's not a safety feature. That's literally a feature you can order if you want it, and or you can turn off. So if there's a problem with the lane assist, who cares?" I think they're outside of the scope of the legislation and what the intent of the legislature was, and the law was in Maryland. So it's something. Yeah.
Are you talking about that on newer cars, the thing that tells you whether you moved into the other lane?
Yeah, it basically buzzes on
yeah,
your vibrates. Yeah.
I have an older car. Yeah, no, I've been in that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that the admissions test is like flunking people?
They'll fail your admissions. They'll fail your admissions until you get that fixed.
Wow.
It's thousands of dollars. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that has nothing to do with admissions. What do we do? And here's the thing, it's not a safety feature. And it's a optional feature. Hell, I've got it on my truck. I can turn it off. I just push a button. I don't want it beeping at me. I just literally that's it. And but his is on his vehicle. It comes with it came with that model of vehicle that he bought. He bought it used. And the emissions is like, or the emissions testing station is like, no, you got a warning light on that or whatever, and that comes up as one of our codes. So go get it fixed. He's like, Seth, it's like $3,000. He was like, and it's not something I use. What in the hell? He's like, this doesn't have anything to do with emissions. What are we doing? So, I got to look at that. I just had a friend of mine's one of my best friends. I love him like a brother. A police officer in Anne Arundel County, and he said we got to talking about like cameras, speed cameras and that type of stuff. And he said, "Oh yeah, we got to pay those if we're like going through a school zone." What? He said, "Yeah, we got to pay that. Like if we're not, I guess, running lights and sirens and in a code of lights and sirens, and we get clipped on a speed camera, the officer has to pay that." And I thought to myself, well, I spent 4 years in the Marines, right? I was infantry, and then I spent about 5 years as military police in the Army and Army National Guard. I'm like, well, there's calls, especially domestic, that you don't necessarily always want to run lights and sirens and your hair on fire too. You're getting there very, very quickly, and you're moving like your hair is on fire, but you don't necessarily want to roll into every scene with every light and siren blaring. So I got to look into that, and if that's the thing, I got to fix that. And so it's all over the place. As far
sounds
as
like some great ideas for legislation. We are coming up towards the end of the show, and it is usually the time when we talk about. Are there other things that you meetings or things that you've got coming up that you want to promote?
No, I don't have any. I've got a fundraiser coming up in January. I'll make sure you guys get the info on that.
Right.
I think it's on the 6th or the 9th at Parlay Room. I do that, and it's for all. So I'm the deputy minority whip and for ECM, and so I put that together for all of the Republicans on my committee, and we do that. And that's a heck of. I love that venue. It's a great place, and it's a breakfast. So I'll make sure you guys get that information. Hopefully you can disseminate it. But other than that, no, honestly, I'm just working hard and getting ready for session.
Yeah, are you
Great.
coming
Dwight?
to the convention next week? Next
Yeah, I'll
Friday
be
night?
there. Yeah, I'll
Oh,
definitely be there. I
good.
can't
Yeah,
wait.
look
Yeah, I
forward to
can't
seeing you
wait.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
we
I guess
have
this is
go ahead. Yep, go ahead. You do the announcement, Dwight.
Yeah, I guess we've got our Montgomery County Republican clubs. It's a long name: Katja Bullock, Chris McCaw, United States Marine Corps Toys for Tots campaign party.
Okay.
It's a free event. All we ask is bring an unwrapped toy, and that is on December 8th in Potomac, Maryland. I hope you can come.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you the details over there.
Yeah.
And
Toys for Tots is one of my big. So it being in the Marines, I have a Toys for Tots box here now. I do it every year, and I personally, I personally go out and fill it 2 or 3 times, and then all of my customers and my patrons do the same thing. So we get a lot of toys for the kids, and that's a really cool thing.
I know in Montgomery County they almost didn't have it because nobody was giving them warehouse space to store the toys.
That's
they
crazy.
Found they did get the couple. I think about a month and a half ago they found a place to do it over by Air Park Road. But I mean, you'd think the county would step up and let them use one of their empty schools or something like that.
Seriously, there's like mall property. There's something out there. I mean, come on. I mean, if you can put a Spirit Halloween up and on every you can find space for toys for children, guys. Let's do this. This isn't rocket science.
Well, thank you very much. We really look forward to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I said, and now we're off to Greg Massoni's. Have you ever been to Massoni's in Perry Hall?
I don't think so.
You got to go there.
Okay.
Greg Massoni's daughter owns that place. We all know Greg from the Ehrlich days.
Yeah.
And it's a great place. The food is unbelievable. They have Squire's Pizza there.
I take my eating very serious. I love to eat.
And the ice cream is Chris Massoni's.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, the ice cream is made at home by Chris Massoni.
And I'm an ice cream fiend, man. So yeah, absolutely.
It is good. It is very good.
That's awesome.
We actually, the Pizza Club, we're going there on the 7th, so you should come out with us.
December 7th?
Yeah.
Okay. Send me the invite.
I will.
Yeah, cool. I'll try to make it up there, man. That'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. Twist my arm. All right. Pizza and ice cream.
Absolutely. We had a hospitality suite one year at the convention. That was pizza and ice cream.
Oh, you do?
No, we did in the past.
Yeah. You should do it again, man.
Well, here's the thing: the hotels we have in that.
Yeah.
This was back when we used to actually have hotels where we had full-size suites.
I remember.
We used to do this at Turf Valley, or we used to do it over at, the DoubleTree. And we'd have pizza, we'd have ice cream, a lot of room. Now you barely have room to have the pizza there.
Yeah, I know the rooms are small.
Yeah.
I put out like charcuterie board, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great discussion, and maybe we can have you back during session and get an update.
I would love that. Yeah, I'd love that. Do like a sort of crossover week or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let me know. Yeah, I had a great time. Great talking to you guys. Cool.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
All right, Seth. Great. What's your website where people can go to donate to you if they wanted to? What's your website?
Seth for Delegate. Sethfordelegate@gmail.com is my email if you want to, contact me. And then
what's
just
the fundraiser for you?
Yeah, Seth. Yeah, right. Seth for Delegate. Just go to Seth for Delegate, and it's by campaign partner, and it's got a a donate button or a yard sign button, or if you just want to. Honestly, if you just want to get in contact with me, or you have some legislative idea or question, I'm available. So you don't need to donate. If you've got a question or whatever, reach out. I like talking to people, and I like talking about it. So, and quite frankly, that's where a lot of great ideas come from, is just, from, I don't want to say the average person, because that's the electorate. That's who we work for. But just quite frankly, the average person. I've gotten bills upon bills upon bills that go, hey, there's a pothole over there. Can you get that fixed? Yep. Because I can't see everything. You know what I mean? I'm only one of 141 people. So I tell my constituents all the time, I give them my cell phone number. 443-831-9508. And I'm like, I'm on the deck usually 10 o'clock at night with a bourbon and a cigar. I can't see everything at all times. If you run into a pot, and I do drive the district regularly, but if there's things out there, low hanging power line, branches on a line, potholes, this type of stuff.
See, Mark, he's the he's the, what do you call it, Howie Dennis of Anne Arundel County. There you go. I have a feeling if somebody called you about a dead raccoon, you'd go get it yourself. But
so I want to part with this story. So I'm at the gym. Go figure. I'm a monk, right? Like I go to the gym every day. I love it. So I'm at the gym, and a buddy of mine that owns oops, sorry, my phone dropped. A buddy of mine that owns Skipper's Pier in down in my district, right? Great restaurant. My restaurant's got great restaurants, and my district's got great restaurants. We got to get together and go.
Yeah.
So he calls me and he says, "Hey man," he goes, "Look, I don't mean to bother you or whatever." And he goes, "And I know this is like not a state issue; it's on a county road." He goes, "But there's this tree down my neighborhood, and people are having to drive all the way around, and it's just, it's causing a problem. Can you call about it for me? I don't know who to call. Can you call about it for me?" Well, I'm like, "Ooh, really? A tree, you say?" And I said, "So where is this tree?" So he tells me where it is. I said, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm at the restaurant." I said, "Can you meet me there in like 15 minutes?" He goes, so I jump in my truck. I go over there. Don't even say anything to anybody. I get out of my truck, break out the Farm Boss chainsaw, put on the gloves and the Carhartt jacket, and then screw the county. I had that tree out of the road in 20 minutes. And he was over there on the side of the road going, "That's your delegate." There's like 20 people on the side of the road. Like, yeah, they were like, he was like, "You see that guy right there? That's your delegate, and that's how government should work." So it was so cool. It was so cool, and I had a blast. I mean, and I have no problem doing stuff like that. I've cleaned ditches and moved trees and whatever. I don't care. It's fine. We'll get it done.
You're a true public servant.
Well, there's a lot of them out there. So thank you.
Bye now.
Okay, good night, everyone. We'll see everyone next week.
Yeah, see you guys. Thanks.